Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, because it is noon. So, hello, everyone. I hope everyone's having a great day. Welcome. We will be starting our webinar shortly. So, in the meantime, as individuals are trickling in, we're going to play some music. All right. And I hope everyone's dancing. So, for those who are joining in, please engage with our chat. Let us know where you're listening in from.
Prostate cancer is an enemy, killing many men with no mercy. You can check your family history.
For those who are joining in, welcome.
Warning signs.
We're starting off this webinar with some music. So if you're listening, please share your dance moves in the chat. Or what's your favorite dance movement? Hi, Dr. Manasi, Sechenji, Vanessa from Maryland. Nate, Dr. Young, Dr. Edna. So happy to have you. Dr. Popoa.
So know your history as you grow, you know that. Go check your body and fight from a place of rest as you eat a healthy diet and regular exercise to keep a healthy weight. Man, I love the world, yeah. Can you raise up a sound? Oh, there's a water fight. Go fight till we got it right. Man, I love the world. Can you raise up a sound?
Hi, Dr. Fullwood. Alrighty, everyone. Welcome. Okay, so welcome everyone to our March 2025 webinar with iCCaRE. I'm really excited about this edition of our webinar as we will be having Mr. Jim Beddows, CEO of the Decision Platform, which is a company that promotes innovative product development and marketing, as well as Kanan Gardner presenting today as our first guest speakers. And following their presentation, we will have Mrs. Williams, who is the ABer Research Coordinator at the ABer Center, so African Behavioral Center. So we're really excited to hear about their presentations. Mr. Beddows will be talking about how TDP can be helpful with iCCaRE initiatives, and Mrs. Williams will be talking about outreach events in Nigeria, such as our Maiduguri outreach event and Nutrition RX event. So I will be bringing up to the stage our first guest speakers. All righty. Hello, Mr. Beddows. Hello, Kanan. You now have the stage.
Thank you. So this is Jim Beddows. I'm CEO of TDP Data Systems based in Silicon Valley. I'm introducing Ken Gardner, who's head of TDP Analytics. He's going to walk you through a brief presentation and a demonstration of our platform and how we're looking to support efforts at iCCaRE.
Okay, there we go. So we'll first walk through a deck. It's maybe like 10 slides, and then we'll go into a demonstration of our platform. So this is an introduction to TDP data systems. TDP is based in Silicon Valley, and we operate globally. We provide advisory services on top of our platform as a service. And we've been working with industry since 2016, academia since 2018, the federal government since 2021, and economic developers since 2022. And as a side note, we're a service-disabled veteran-owned small business. So there's a growing issue with data, and that's it's increasingly challenging to find the data that we need. And we attribute this to kind of three core root causes. The first is data inaccessibilities. So some data is public, others can be private or behind paywall. The second is data silos. So if you're not working in a specific silo, the data from that silo can be difficult to find and access. And the third is data asymmetries, and that can be asymmetries regarding, what the data is saying between data sets, but also how it's structured, which can make it harder to work with. And as this data is increasingly growing in the world, the question becomes, well, how do we navigate a path forward through this explosion of unintelligible data? So the first thing TDP data systems does is we cast a wide net with the data that we pull into our system. We access over 50 million databases, data sets, and data tables coming from over 350 sources. We've built our own proprietary data ingestion process, so we're constantly bringing in new data types and new data into the system. And on the left here, you can just kind of get an idea of some of the data that we're pulling in categorically. And we quantify that by the number of databases, data sets, and data tables in the red. So you can see, for instance, from government data, we're pulling in over 380,000 different databases, data sets, and data tables from both domestic and foreign governments. And by casting this wide net, we start to overcome those three challenges of data silos, as we're pulling in from all domains, really. The second of data accessibility. We're pulling in both public and private data. And then the third with data asymmetries, as we bring the data into our system, we're joining and normalizing it. And then we also use algorithms and models to help evaluate that data. So now that we've kind of casted this broad net of data in our system, the next question is, how do we make sense of all this data? There's a lot of it. And so the analogy we like to use is each one of these databases, data sets, and data tables is like a haystack in a field. And the field is full of, millions and millions of haystacks. And within each haystack, there could be, a needle of information that we need or that we want to help address the question at hand that we're looking to solve or address. And so our solution to really finding and extracting these needles of information is as follows. So the first thing we do is we use machine learning to map keyword clusters and to expand them. So what we can do is pull in these different data sets into this visualization tool that you see here on the left. And then from there, what we can start to do is plugging in different keywords to analyze the language being used by that data type. And this is really important because across different data types, language is evolving. For instance, at, say, a researcher level, they're going to be using very technical terminology, while as a startup level, they're going to be using more market-ready terms, but also potentially generating or making new terminology to break through the marketing clutter. And so with this, what we're able to do is create this comprehensive list of terminology being used around a technology or a topic of interest that then we can run across the data sets to give us, the most information we can back while not introducing too much noise because it's coming directly from the data. So once we've generated our strings of keywords, the next step would be to go into our search functionality of our system. And going right to left in the right box, what we can do is select different databases, data sets, and data tables that we want to include in our search. So if we're looking at, commercial data that we're interested in, we could look at startups or corporations or even patents. Or if we're looking more earlier stage, we can look at, what's cutting edge research or clinical trials around a topic. Once we've selected our databases to search across, the next step would be to go to the middle box here, which is to choose the different algorithms that we want to use to evaluate the data that we're going to be searching across. And then on the left, the last box is scorecards of the data with the algorithmic assessment. And so our process at TDP is always two-step. The first step is to do a computer analysis or evaluation to go across the billions and billions of data points that we have, to then direct the humans who can deal with new and novel situations and decision making. TDP recently has submitted a proposal with the Mayo Clinic expanding access to patients and providers with our system, specifically around cancer. And so this slide here is just a quick overview of that grant submission. So this was a ABer grant, phase 1, that we should be hearing back on in the next probably about 2 months. But the project purpose is to develop a dynamic dashboards on top of our existing platform of the service for individuals and providers to optimize decision-making surrounding cancer patient journeys. And this includes things like aggregation, normalization, and the algorithmic evaluation for vast amounts of data, which includes things like local cancer risk factors, for instance, like PFAS in water or air pollution. It also bring in local resources available. So this could be local nonprofits, local oncologists, screening locations, support groups, etc. And then more so for the provider side, clinical trials for patient clinical trial matching through machine learning to expand treatment options and increase also minority participation in clinical trials. So to kind of wrap this all up, the dashboard will serve as an educational platform and a motivator for individuals to be proactive in one's health relating to cancer by removing the barriers to cancer-related data access, as well as evaluation. Now, to kind of give you a live demonstration of TDP system, the first thing I'll show is our machine learning keyword expansion projector tool. And so you saw a screen grab of this in one of the slides. And what we can do is plug in the different data types to this tool and analyze the language being used. So for this demo, I'll just use the use case of maybe we're interested in looking at how startups are using AI in around prostate health. And so what we can do here is we've plugged in a data set of about 4 million startups from around the world. And each one of these blue dots you see here represents a word used in the text descriptions of these companies. So we're going across billions of data points here. And what we can do is input a keyword. We mentioned, artificial intelligence. And the machine learning will go through the text descriptions of these 4 million companies and give us the most associated terms to our input of artificial intelligence. So you can see it's recommending things like machine learning, big data, computer vision, deep learning, and so forth. So from here, what we can do is start to broaden the list of keywords that we can use across our search while expanding the results, but not introducing too much noise. We can also take the top hits here and isolate them. And then from here, what we can have is the system further cluster them out by end use case. So if we let this run for a little bit, we'll start to see a cluster form around, AI technology specifically, like, natural language processing or neural networks. And then as we rotate around, we'll be able to find kind of also some adjacencies, as well as potentially, use cases or applications of AI in different industries and tech. And as these start to cluster out, then what we can do is find those different clusters applicable to what we're trying to search for and find. And then from there, we can use it to identify additional keywords. Once we've gone through keyword expansion, we can come to the Search Console. And I'm just going to do a pretty basic search just for time's sake. But I'll do artificial intelligence, AI, I'll do machine learning, and then I'll also use computer vision that might pull in some additional things around, say, diagnostics. And then I'll just run prostate as well as a second list. Just keep it short and simple. And so now what the system's doing is searching across these 4 million companies, and we'll return any that are leveraging the keywords from each one of these lists. So for the AI list, we should be sitting at somewhere just north of 60,000 probably. And then for prostate, probably somewhere between, I would guess, 500 to 1,000. But in just a couple moments here, these lists will return, and then what we'll be able to do is overlap them. So we can see for this AI list, it returns 68,000 startups, and then for prostate, looks like 631 startups. From here, next, what we can do is take our two lists and overlap them. And you can see we get to a short list of 14 companies specifically leveraging AI in some way, shape, or form with something related to the prostate. And then what we can do is recreate this list here. And we can see here now we have the 14. And there's a few things we can do. If I scroll to the right and zoom in so it's a little bit easier to see, we pull in geographic data for each one of these companies. So you can see we collect country, region, and city, so we can filter and evaluate by geography. We can also use this for things like benchmarking. And then we also have a library of over 150 different algorithms that we can use to score, rank, and evaluate the data. And so you can see here, I just took this execution score, which is looking at the probability that these companies can execute the claims they make, and I've ranked it from highest to lowest. So at the top of the list, we should have companies that are more established. They may have products on the market or close to the market. As we get to the bottom of the list, we'll likely get to earlier stage companies and also maybe some earlier stage technologies. And what I'll do is I'll just select the top hits and I'll pull up their scorecards. And we scorecard out everything in our system. As I scroll through here, you can see there's one for each company. And we can see things like, the name of the company, a high concept about what they do, a link to their URL, and then a longer text description about them and their operations. And all this text data that you see is what's feeding back into this visualization tool here. And then under scores, this gets into TDP's proprietary algorithmic assessment, where we can see the execution score ranked by, how survivable the company is, and then we have some internal data quality assurance algorithms. And then the other thing I'll note too is we also have AI search functionality within the system. So there's a few different ways we can do this. One is we have description search, so you can just put in, natural language here, whatever you want to search for. Choose how many companies you want it to return to, and then it'll match the text that you've put in to the descriptions of these companies and return the most similar ones. We can also say we've gone through and vetted this list and we have these handful of companies that we're interested in. We can also have the AI do the same thing by looking at their text descriptions and match it to the most similar as well. So typically what we'll do is this two-pronged approach where we'll start with the keyword analysis and then we'll use the AI as a second pass to find then any companies that might be in the space that didn't use any of the keywords that we've used. The other thing I'll just show is just the ability to mix and match algorithms. So since we're looking at startup data, TDP supported about $1 billion in acquisitions, largely in the life sciences and pharmaceutical development space. And what we can do now is pull up the scorecard that we've added in, say this acquisition score, and you can see now that we've populated the new score into the scorecard. So the point here is what we can do is make these scorecards dynamic and customized to any kind of question at hand that we're looking at. And if we need to generate new algorithms to support a project or a new question or evaluation metric, we can. It takes us about 2 days to conceptualize, build, test, validate, and deploy an algorithm into the system. So it's a very rapid process. And then the other piece I'll show of the platform gets into our project management dashboards. And this feeds into a part of the dashboard that TDP wrote in with its CIBER grant with the Mayo Clinic for the dashboard for cancer patient user journeys. So this would be a piece of it that'd be modified. And what we can see at the top is just an overview of the project. We can track things like goals, hypotheses, members, also collaborators. So if we're working with multiple entities, we can. We also have in-project messaging, so we can communicate with the different team members across different topics within the project. And then we can also map out what needs to get done within the project. We can assign, an individual to it. We can give it a deadline, and we can have this transparency of who's responsible for what, What are the deadlines? Are we keeping, on track with the project, etc.? We also have file sharing within here, so we can upload different materials to share with the team. And you'll see there's this access level next to everything. So whatever you put into the system, you have full control over who can access it. So you can have it hidden from an individual. You can have them have access to view it or modify it. And this gets important when we're building consortiums and operating consortiums in the system. We also have biz dev tracking. So with every project, you get to the point where you have to pick up the phone, start having conversations with people. And so from here, what we can do is start having or keep track of, those conversations and activities that are happening outside of the platform. So we can keep track of, who do we meet with, when do we meet with them, what materials were shared, and what are the next steps. And then the last thing I'll show within the project management gets into trend charting. And we have trend charts for the different data types. This one looks like it was pre-run for startup data for precision medicine. And we can look at things like startup creation versus acquisitions. We can look at funding rounds versus dollars raised. We can do these same trends with research papers, with patents, with clinical trials, so we can kind of see how activity around, different keywords are manifesting over time. And I'll pause there on the demo, and we can stop there also for any questions from the group. Thank you.
I am on mute. Thank you, Cannon. We did have a couple of questions from the audience. So first question that we have within our chat is, how does your platform ensure that the generated data is intelligible and actionable for both patients and our community partners?
Yeah, so we are pulling from a lot of different locations. So data quality is a big thing. And so that's where those algorithms that come in to evaluate the quality of data are really important. So on that scorecard you saw, there was just that one for evaluating that startup, but we have algorithms to kind of evaluate the quality of the data that's coming into the system, kind of at that metadata level. Our approach too is really, I kind of mentioned this, I teased at this in the deck, is twofold. The first is to start with the computer and then apply the human analyst, right? And so our approach is to really go across that vast amounts of data and then apply the humans with their expertise on top of that. So if, say, there is an issue with data or a data source, right, it comes to the human and then we can address it at that local level. But we do have strict thresholds that have to be met in terms of the quality of the data and where it's coming from up front also. I don't know, Jim, if there's anything you want to add to that.
So what we do is take this data and distill it down into actionable items into these scorecards. And so that's how we take this data and turn it into actionable information that's very straightforward in how to follow. And our method to do it is very traceable and trustworthy. So we can demonstrate where we're pulling the data from, what algorithms we're running it through to make the recommendations we're doing in the scorecards. So Ken, you might want to pull up a scorecard and just go through the anatomy of a scorecard, how we're taking vast amounts of data and then putting it into actionable information in the scorecard, and how we would generate the same use the same process with the dashboard.
We have time for that. So if you want to, if you're okay with sharing that, Cannon.
Sure, let me pull it back up. We kind of walk through this a little bit in the demo, and I walk through like the different components of a scorecard. But as I pull this back up, the other thing I'll just kind of touch off of, Jim mentioned our AI is kind of trustworthy and explainable. And that's a big thing where we differentiate from things like, say, a ChatGPT, where it's a neural network. It's a black box. You don't really know where the results are coming from. We only work off of the data within our system, so we can trace it back to kind of any point of where, the decision came from in terms of the evaluation. Okay, I'm sharing my screen again, and I'll pull back up. scorecard here that we were looking at. So for, say, example, again, here looking at startup data, we pull in about 60 different columns of data for each one of these companies. And those different columns then will feed into the different algorithmic assessments. So if we look here at kind of the quality assurance algorithms, data completeness, this is looking at how much data we have for the specific company. So we have 73% of the columns filled for JIVA. And then looking at data validity, this is how confident we are in the data that we do have. You can see it's a 6.8. Now we can come down here and see the data age that JIVA updated their information within the last 12 months, which for a startup, that's typically pretty good. It's pretty reliable. Usually if they have a funding event or something, they'll quickly go and update it into their system. So heuristically, we can say this scoring of this company is likely valid. Say, for instance, the data age was 2 years, that could bring in more questions of, okay, maybe we need to then manually go out and update some of the data that we have on this company. But our approach is really to go vastly broad. And then if there is, a piece of data that is of interest, we can kind of take this triage approach to then go update it at the point of that query. So that way we can keep our costs down and sustainable and scalable.
So what I'd point out is the probably most important algorithm on this scorecard, for just as we were talking about how it would be used in a dashboard, is the score of execution score.
Mm-hmm.
So that is describing what's the probability, in this case, a startup can execute its claim. But we take that same type of probabilistic approach to what's the probability a potential therapeutic approach could help a patient. So that provides actionable information. But what's the probability a provider could provide the care that's needed? So again, it's a probabilistic assessment on recommendations on how to proceed. Okay, Ken.
Thank you, Cannon. All right, the next question we had from the audience is, does your platform support the development of interactive virtual environments or tools for patients and community partners to access information?
Yeah, so that kind of starts to get at that dashboard proposal that we put in with the Mayo Clinic. So that would be more of a dashboard where individuals could log in, they could put in a handful of keywords in a simplified manner, and then get the results they're looking for with different types of data visualizations. We haven't explored the I guess the topic of maybe in a virtual environment, say like in a VR type of system, but in theory, those types of things could be translated to that type of code or software, relatively easily. So it's something that could be explored together, yes.
Okay. Our next question is your platform primarily focused on searching and retrieving data, essentially acting as a large cloud database that identifies patterns? If so, how can we transform these patterns or data lists into meaningful, actionable insights that are informative and useful for the communities we serve?
So Ken, you might want to do a spin through with some of the deliverables we generate with our platform to show how we take this vast amounts of data and transform it into actionable information.
Sure, let me pull that back up. Yeah, so there's kind of two different sections to our deliverables. One is going to be kind of more so the computer generated stuff. So it's going to be like the lists and the scorecards. As I scroll through here, you can see, some of the different things we're scorecarding out, really every type of data that's in our system. So research papers, researchers, patents, investors, company founders, clinical trials, nonprofits, the list goes on and on. We also have the trend report. So you saw the flash trend charts. We also do heat mapping as well. So we can kind of visualize the data that way. We can overlay the different data types as well. We also do rate of change analysis. So different types of watch lists. We can put in notifications for like different types of triggers. So say maybe there's like 2 clinical trials on a specific type of cancer, right? Maybe they're not recruiting. Maybe when there's 5 more around the topic, right? We get notified or something like that. We also look at legislation, so looking top down from the government, how their different bills and programs are going to be affecting different technologies and topics of interest. We can also do things like social media analysis. This gets into sentiment analysis. And then the second phase here gets into kind of the more human-generated reports. The first step is what we call flash reporting. These are quick 1 to 2 page reports. Could be on a technology, an area of interest. We'll look at multi-use case of technology. We'll do things like process improvement. This could be both for internal processes and manufacturing. We'll do market sizings, like a deep dive market size would be custom bottom up to where we can get to a very specific application within a market. We'll do deep dives on companies, markets, and industries, but also scientific literature, looking at the hurdles preventing technology from being commercialized. And then from there, we can model out, which approach is likely to win out and when will it come online. We also do things called ecosystem mapping, where we combine different technologies and entity capabilities to holistically address a pain point. And then from there, we'll move into a proof of feasibility study and then a proof of concept. We also do things like supply chain mapping. We've done this with active pharmaceutical ingredients and kind of the whole effort of kind of reshoring API manufacturing back to the US. We also do biz dev support, so outreach, model and framework generation. So we're combining different algorithms and different dimensional kind of approaches to address questions that are complex. And then we also have, custom data that we can pull into the system and custom algorithms that we can build. But the whole thing about being actionable comes back to kind of that scorecarding with the algorithms that Jim was touching on, right? That's kind of the starting point where we can then prioritize all the options with an algorithm of for our use case. And then from there, that can kind of help us be more efficient with our time and with our resources as well. But it can point us to where we should spend that time with the human.
So we have over 150 proprietary algorithms that span the lab to market ecosystems. And these include algorithms like build versus buy, or how novel is a research, or how commercializable is the research, or is it multi-use case for the research, or what technology readiness level is the research or the innovation, or what's the probability a consortium can be formed around a given topic. So we have a long list of algorithms that turn the data into actionable information, so that to provide data-driven and evidence-based decision making. Okay, Ken.
Thank you, Canon, Mr. Beddows. We have 3 more questions in the chat, or maybe 4. So follow-up question is, do you only use existing data, or can you add prospective data?
Yeah, so we have our proprietary data ingestion process, so we can pull in any kind of data. We've done things with synthetic data also, so creating our own data for different projects. So we can really work off of any type of data and pull it into the system or create it in the system.
Got it.
So we just pulled in 70,000 research paper abstracts from a University of Strathclyde, a UK university. It took us less than 30 minutes. So we pull in data all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's great to know. Thank you. How flexible is your platform in creating a user-friendly virtual experience for patients with a disease?
Yeah, so that again kind of comes back to the proposal. So TDP started out working with Global 2000 corporations, primarily in Japan. And then on that first slide you saw, we then started to work with universities, the government, economic developers. And largely that's been delivered through our managed services and occasionally through kind of a subscription model through our platform as a service. We're now trying to get into more somewhat of like a a SaaS, like we call it a platform as a service, so a PaaS type of thing, which would come into kind of more user-friendly dashboards, which could then tie into, you know, virtual environments or whatever. So that's what we're trying to move towards, and again, kind of what that grant is getting us towards.
So we have a platform as a service that's existing, and we provide advisory services on top of the platform as a service. What we're moving towards is to create self-service.
Mm-hmm.
So providing dashboards that allow self-service, so we don't have to directly provide the advisory services, to allow third parties to come directly in to our platform and to self-serve and make their own decisions based on, you know, evidence-based decision, data-driven decision-making. And the use cases for these dashboards are endless. And it covers health, it covers education, it covers workforce training. It goes on how the data can be employed. But what we're uniquely doing is we're combining specific.
Mr. Beddows?
Looks like we lost him.
I believe so. Okay. Well, we do have 2 last questions to ask, and we'll move on to our next presenter. So I know Mr. Beddows isn't on, so Cannon, if you know the answers to these or not. But next follow-up question would be, can your platform be customized to fit the specific needs of our project, such as generating data tailored to prostate cancer or other disease-specific information?
Yeah, it definitely can. We would just have to have a conversation about, you know, what are the specific goals you're trying to address or questions you're trying to address or resources that you want to be included. And yeah, we can set it. We're industry agnostic, so we can run any set of keywords through it. And if for whatever reason we do need to get additional data, like we've talked about, we can pull it in very quickly. So we're definitely tailored to support the project.
Great, thank you. And some questions from Dr. Denna. So she's really excited about your platform. She would like to explore how to use it for precision community health for the community surrounding our American Legion post. Also, we are working on a couple of grants that she thinks will benefit from this, and that she'll be in touch.
Okay.
So, her question that she had is, the response on pulling in abstracts is really interesting. Do you have the capability to use large data sets in predicting patterns of health / drivers of health?
Yeah, we can really look at any trends as long as we have the data to tell us so. So I'll just answer it the same as kind of the previous question. We just need to make sure that we're looking at the right data sets, which if we have it, great. If we don't, we can pull it in and get it, whether it's, you know, through data partnerships or working with your data and pulling it into the system, right? We can do that. And similarly, we have permissions to that where, you know, only you would be able to see that side of the data. We wouldn't, you know, give access to everyone, obviously. So.
And the thing I would stress is that we create these algorithms. We also create models. We're modeling out. And what we're doing is we're generating predictive analytics through modeling, where we can see where the trends are going. But at the same time, we can combine these different resources, innovation, people, researchers, providers, into unique combinations for new solutions to what we're predicting is coming down the pipe. So we can see this is, for example, we've done this on behalf of ARPA-H, looking at obesity trends across the US, and we get down to the US Census Tract or city block, because we pulled in 90 years of Bureau of Labor Statistics and census data. And we pulled in 5 million rows of data looking at what are the incidents of obesity, what will be the impact of obesity on healthcare system at a local level and productivity, economic hit at a local level, and what are the resources available at a local level to mitigate that. So this would include things like access to childcare or gyms, or counselors or other things like that. So these are types of models we create with our system.
Thank you so much, Mr. Beddows and Cannon. Those were really great questions from the audience as well, and you all were able to answer those very well. So any final comments and thoughts from your perspective and from the audience? We do need to move on to our next guest speaker. So
No, just thank you, everyone. And what we can do is put an email in the chat or something. So if you want to get in touch, we can just reach out.
Yep, that works too. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. We love working with providers, with researchers. We do a lot of work in terms of grants to just advance, science in general and healthcare industry. So we're happy to explore ways to collaborate together. Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you for the TDP group for their presentation. Now we will be moving on to our next speaker, Ms. Williams. So she is our ABer Research Coordinator, and she'll be providing again a presentation overview about outreach events in Nigeria, such as our Maiduguri outreach and Nutrition RX. So let's give a hand and welcome to Ms. Williams.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. As I have been introduced, my name is Williams Adedoyin Elizabeth, and I'm the research coordinator for the ABer Center. And today I'll be presenting on ABer and some of the outreaches that we have been doing at our center here. So this outline will be guiding me today. I want to give a quick introduction about our center. ABer Center is set up to increase the number of academic behavioral scientists who can actually effectively address the issue of cancer prevention and control in Africa. The center was set up in the year 2018. Cancer prevention and cancer trainings. And the ABer Center is also an arm of CAPTC, and as we said earlier, it's focused on behavioral research, community outreach and engagement, training and research education on the prevention and control of prostate cancer. We have two parts of ABer. We have the behavioral part and also the clinical part. The behavioral part is located at the Federal University of Agriculture, the CIDES building there, FUNAB, and it's headed by Dr. Catherine Oladoyinbo. And we have the medical aspect that's located at the Federal Medical Center in Abeokuta here. That's headed by our medical director in person of Dr. Chidebere Ogo. We have a lot of services that we offer at the center. Some of our services include language translation, instrument development and validation, community data collection, data analysis, community research, outreaches. If you want your instrument translated to any language, you can reach out to us at the African Behavioral Project Instrument. We just recently validated a short film for our site in Calabar. You need data collected in a community, you can reach out to us. You need your data analyzed. We have a biostatistician in our lab who does that seamlessly, and also majorly community outreaches. Those are the services that we offer at our center. This service is actually at our email. You can reach out to me or the center's email. I'll be dropping later in the chat box. Moving on to the Nutrition RX, I'll be talking about some of the objectives of this project. Now, the major objective of this project is to create the awareness on this issue of prostate cancer. And how do we intend to do this? Is through community partnership and engagement. I remember the last time when we went Badagry, the first time when we went then, the first point of call that we moved to was to visit the Oba Akran of Badagry, to explain to him this is the reason community, because it's very important to have partners in the community. Another objective also is to help with this health disparities that exist in our underserved communities here in Africa, and also educate these men on the importance of a very healthy lifestyle habit in order to help them improve their health outcomes, and also to provide them with some food. The first nutrition RM 2024, we had officials from the Mayo Clinic. We had Professor Wilma. We had Professor Adedoyin. We had a lot of dignitaries that were around, community leaders also in Badagry, and it was very successful. And moving on from Badagry, we moved to Maiduguri, because we just recently concluded another major outreach in Maiduguri, and that held on the 24th and the 24th and the 25th of February. And from there now we're moving to Ivory Coast, and I'll speak on that as we go on. So now, what actually goes into the planning of these outreaches? I would like to talk about that. The first thing we do after the community has been identified, the community where we'll be having this outreach. Once that community has been identified, the first thing we do is to create a budget. After creating this budget, I move it down to it's a goal, we send it out to our consortium manager and person of Mr. Shea that sends it out for further processing. We then create flyers to raise. We send the flyers out to the PI of the community where we are going to, for it to be printed and be shared around to this men, and we also put the flyers, everything on our social media platforms in order to create the awareness for the program. Then our statistician deploys the needs assessment form on our web-based portal that we use in collecting data from these participants. And after that, the PI of the site will be going to recruit some research assistants for us that will work with us in getting after recruitment. The next thing is to train these assistants. In Badagry, the training was physical, because Badagry is close by, not too far from us here. For Maiduguri and for Ivory Coast, the training was done virtually. Afterwards, we assembled all our instruments, the anthropometric instruments, our blood pressure machines. All this will be used to obtain data from the participant at the site. And afterwards, we go ahead to purchase our gift bags. We customize them. We purchase the food items, that will be packed in those gift bags for the participants. And I'd like to show us some pictures from the just recently concluded outreach in Maiduguri. This is the needs assessment form here, where that was used. This is our flyer. This is some of our instruments that was used. These are the items, the food items that we got, and they have in this picture here. We have the packaged food item. We've packaged them into different bag, into the gift bags. So moving on this outreach activity days, what is it that we actually do? The first thing is that the hall would have been arranged, the chairs, the table, everything would have been set up by our research assistants that we've recruited, and the PI and the courtesy members there. They would have had everything set up. Afterwards, as the participants are arriving at the venue, we give them a tag. This is to enable us, help with crowd control. I remember in Badagry, we had close to, I think, 600 men attend the program, and it was a large number. So to help us control the crowd, and so that there's no argument. Like, I came first, you came last, is what we'll be using to attend to each participant. And afterwards, we have the opening address by the host community PI, and the PI introduces CAPTC, iCCaRE, and ABer members to the community, and what exactly it is that we are here to do and all. And afterwards, the urologist that is on site there will talk about the prostate health, the prostate gland, and everything that is involved in prostate cancer. After all this is done, we then move over to the outreach stages proper. The first thing is that the participants will be ushered to the blood pressure stand. We have two assistants at the blood pressure stand, two assistants on the anthropometrics stand, collecting the data. We have like 4, and also most times when we are going for this program, some of our coordinators in different sites also join us in this program, and then they help with collecting the data. And afterwards, the package then is being presented to the participant after their blood pressure has been checked, the anthropometric gift bag. So this some of the photo sessions from the just concluded Maiduguri outreach. We have here the Chief Medical Director of the University of Maiduguri Teaching Hospital, kind to also add color to our outreach. He decided to have a PSA screening and an ultrasound free of charge for these men. And these are some of the men here seated. This is Dr. Dogo, is the urologist there in Maiduguri, and there's also a CAPTC member, Dr. Booker. And also, these are some of the men asking questions from Dr. Dogo, wanting to know more about the issue of prostate cancer, how it can be prevented, about what they can do once they notice any kind of symptoms. And Dr. Dogo gave them a lot of answers. Still on the photo sessions, here we have the stand for the blood pressure. Here we have the PSA screening. I remember here Dr. Gali and Professor Gali and Dr. Buka were actually answering the question from that man. He had some questions, and this is the anthropometric stand where the height, the weight, and the waist circumference is being taken. These are not, like I said earlier, some of our coordinators join us. This Northern Region coordinator also joining some of our assistants that was recruited to help with data collection. And these are pictures of the ultrasound that was done for this men. So we have the summary of our outreach program. For the health and nutrition outreach, we had a total of 316 men attend this outreach. For the PSA screening, we had data was collected from 124 of these men. And on behalf of Dr. Oladoyinbo and Dr. Ogo, would like to say a very big thank you to the CAPTC members of University of Maiduguri Teaching Hospital. They have been very kind. They welcomed us. They were very supportive. The program went seamlessly because of all the help that we got from them, and we are very grateful for that. And our next outreach, like I said earlier, will be taking place in Côte d'Ivoire. That's the next program, another nutrition RS outreach that we'll be having. Is going to be coming up on the 22nd and the 23rd of March 2025. It's just a few days away from now. So if you're in Ivory Coast or you find yourself around, you're welcome. For Ivory Coast outreach, we have reached out to Dr. Koulibaly, and Dr. Koulibaly has been very supportive. The hall is set up. The assistants have been trained. The food items have been bought. The gift bag everything all settled, and we are ready in full jet to take over station for today. Thank you very much for listening. I don't know if you have questions from audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Williams, for such a great presentations. Those pictures really speak out on the impact that you all have done. So
Thank you.
very, very beautiful presentation. And in the chat, we
you.
just have nothing but like praises for all the work that you've been doing. So just
Thank you
great
so much.
community engagement, brilliant work done by the team, very strategic to have incorporated prostate health checks/talks within the general health checkup. So amazing job, Miss Williams and team.
Thank you
So
so much. Thank you.
thank you again for your presentation. And for everyone that's still listening, thank you for joining us as this concludes our March 2025 presentation. So I hope you have a great rest of your day. And we're going to play our iCCaRE clip. Would have been the Alrighty, everyone. Thank you. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you to the speakers again. All right. Bye, everyone. Thanks.